A longtime Democratic strategist says the party needs to work on its messaging. In a recent interview, James Carville told Vox, quote, "Wokeness is a problem and we all know it." He adds Democrats will need to build on their coalition if they want to hold on to Congress. That's something Carville says they can't do unless Democrats, quote, "stop allowing ourselves to be defined from the outside." And James Carville joins me now. He managed the first presidential campaign of former President Bill Clinton. He's also the co-host of the Politics War Room podcast. James, welcome to Red and Blue.
Well, thank you, Elaine. Thank you. It's glad to be here.
So, James, I just want to make sure that I am clear on your position here. Are you saying that you see an issue with the language that Democrats are using, or is the issue with the ideology of some Democrats? How do you see it?
I see it as much more of a language problem. What I refer to as the faculty lounge. Actually, 85% of the things that the faculty lounge want, I want also. But we're communicating with words and in language that people don't understand, or that they don't even use. I mean, the term Latinx, that 3% of the people use that. And if you want to persuade people, you have to talk the language of the people. You can't talk the language of the faculty lounge. And we were just lapsing into this jargon talk that was, and not only was it not helpful, I think it was hurtful. And we hurt ourselves with this kind of jargony type language. And that was exactly the point I was trying to make. The objectives, I am, for the most part, pretty much in accord with.
So, James, just let me ask you, for people who might come from the faculty lounge, who might say to themselves, well, the reason that some people think big thoughts and think specifically about terms like the one you just brought up, Latinx, is because in the past, things haven't been so precise with language, and that has been a problem, and it hasn't been as inclusive as maybe conversations could be. What would you say to someone like that?
Well, I'd say that's your job, to like mull on these like larger topics and rewrite dictionaries. My job is to try to write good laws, to help people write laws that are inclusive, that deal with problems like inequality and the climate and things that I'm just nauseated over, that I think are major problems in American politics. And if I want to know about Beowulf, I'll ask somebody in the faculty lounge, all right? But when they start intruding in politics in a way that doesn't communicate with people, and you start hearing this stuff back from people that are doing focus groups, and we're speaking, the faculty lounge is speaking one language, the people are speaking the other language, and I'm trying to get the people to vote for Democrats to enact policies that I think are productive for the United States. And this kind of jargon language, it hurts, and it hurts a lot, and it cost us congressional seats, it cost us state legislative seats. I mean, Biden won, but he is the most non-faculty lounge person in probably the entire Democratic Party.
All right, let's talk about congressional seats. So right after the election, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez argued progressive coalition helped Democrats win, and therefore Democrats should enact bolder change. We also heard the more centrist Congressman Conor Lamb say that if he tacked that far left, he could not win his district. Do they both have a point?
Well, first of all, we lost seats, right? Arithmetic. You can argue with anything. You say, I got a point. We lost seats in a race that we were supposed to gain seats. I mean, in some ways, I'm kind of an admirer of Congresswoman Cortez, because I think she's kind of savvy. I probably don't agree with some of her ideas. But you're right, Conor Lamb was, his vote went down in his congressional district. And it is hard to talk to people like Abigail Spanberger and people like this that don't believe that this kind of jargon language was counterproductive to us. And I understand where the Congresswoman is coming from, but that just doesn't comport with arithmetic at all. And I don't think it's helpful at all. I think she's a talented person, has a lot of talented. I point that out. But that's not where people are, and it's different if you're running in Southwest Pennsylvania than you're running in the Bronx. We got to be cognizant. We want to have a big party. We want to be a big tent party. We want to draw in people from around the country. We got to start acting like it.
Is it possible to do that, though, considering what you've heard, James, as far as the differences between the different wings in the Democratic Party?
You know, I don't know that the objectives are that staggeringly different. Right? I think that if you look at most of the people in the Democratic caucus are like me, that like to expand health care. They would certainly totally on board with President Biden and the things that he's kind of trying to accomplish with infrastructure. This daycare proposal he has, I think, is utterly brilliant. The idea that we're going to help people with home health is to me, as integral part of infrastructure as any bridge or highway that's ever been built. But if we want to help him, or Senate Bill 1, if we want to help him, we have to do it in language, in a presentation that convinces people and that they understand. And that's what I'm trying to say.
So you mentioned health care a minute ago. I also want to ask about Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. He has said the U.S. needs to stop being an apologist for Israel's government, and he's pushed for expanded health care coverage. How do you reconcile his influence with the Democratic Party as a whole?
Well, I mean, first of all, Senator Sanders is making a point about some of the policies of the government of Israel, like expanding these settlements or evicting people in East Jerusalem, which are counterproductive. And he was trying to make that point that is unrelated to healthcare. He thinks that we should have Medicare for all. Well, he ran on that, and so did Senator Warren. And President Biden ran away with the Democratic primary. The Democratic voters have spoken on the direction that they want the party to go in. And when you presuppose that you're smarter than the voters of this party, then you're losing contact with what it is you're trying to accomplish. We had an election, a primary election in 2020 that flushed these issues out. Democrats voted overwhelmingly for what I would consider pragmatic solutions to bring more affordable health care to more people. But I understand that people are going to want to push harder, and I don't have a terrible objection with that. But when and to Senator Sanders' credit, he doesn't use faculty lounge jargon. I don't want to include him in that. I want to be very careful. But he makes some good points about the Middle East, and other people also make good points. But the two are unrelated.
Back on the language question for just a moment, I wonder, James, do you think that there has been that perhaps part of the issue, as you see it, is there's been this focus on identity politics in the Democratic Party, and then that is something, because you brought up the term Latinx, for instance, in talking about what you say is the faculty lounge kind of jargon that we've been hearing. Is that a factor in your mind as these discussions move forward?
I think it is. I would describe my view as I believe in pluralism. I think America, if I use a homespun metaphor here, is like a gumbo. So if I have shrimp and okra gumbo, the shrimp remains identifiable, the disc of okra is identifiable, but it's part of a larger dish. All right? And I think our primary identity of all of us should always be that, you know, we're humans and we're Americans. And I love the Cinco de Mayo, and I love all of the cultural things that different people have. But I believe in pluralism, and I believe that we're all part of this delicious gumbo. And I hate when we start trying to exclude people from our gumbo. That's the way that I would put it. And I think most people feel that way.
So you think part of, just so I understand, James, so the faculty lounge jargon that you talk of, that you say is really kind of hurting Democrats when they get out there and try to get their message across, you think that identity issues are part of what is blocking that message from getting through? Is that right? Do I have that right?
I mean, people have an identity. I don't have an issue with that. But when you talk about your identity first and the country second, then people who don't share your identity are not going to be persuaded by you. So if I'm looking at myself in this TV picture, I'm white, I'm pale, I need to get some sun. All right, but that's not my chief identity. Is not the fact that I'm too white and I need to get some sun. My chief identity is the fact that I'm an American. And I want us to have a country where everybody respects other people and gets along with other people. I can't do anything about my identity any more than anybody else can. but we should talk to people in a clear language that they understand and appeal to something better than just one's identity. And I understand why people do that. I'm just trying to encourage a more inclusive and broader language, and I want more ingredients in this gumbo.
Before we let you go, James, our time is running short. Of course, Democratic politics is your wheelhouse, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on the Republican Party here moving forward. What do you think the role of President Trump will be? How integral of a role do you see him playing going forward in Republican politics?
President Trump is the Republican Party. There's no such thing as the Republican Party that I grew up running campaigns against. My Democracy Corps, which I'm part of, 75%, which is by my count is a pretty substantial majority, follow President Trump more than the Republican Party. They demand that the Republican Party do everything they can to protect Donald Trump. The idea that there's a Republican Party out there separate from Donald Trump that's just not a fact. That's just not where we are in American politics. Donald Trump is the Republican Party, period, end of argument.
All right, James Carville, we've talked gumbo, we've talked identity. For the record, you and I did not coordinate our sartorial choices today. Yeah. I went to the University of Illinois, so if we were representing college colors, I would have been wearing blue and orange, for the record.
Right.
All right, James Carville, thank you very much, James.
Well, thank you. I enjoyed it. No, we did not coordinate anything, I promise you.